All right, let's try this again. For those who haven't tuned in or don't know what is going on or what I'm talking about, I'm trying something new, trying a new experiment here. We'll see how it goes, see how things play out over the next couple weeks. So I ask that you bear with me as I kind of deal with uh, live streaming. So if you're just tuning into the podcast, I'm going to start, or the plan is right now to start doing a live stream of be get in a routine. We'll get down to time where we can continuously do this podcast live at 7 a.m. Central Time. That'll be before the sun's really hitting there and kind of blocking out some of the view. So we'll figure this thing out. I appreciate those who've been with this podcast for a long time, been following for a long time. You know, I'm scrappy. We might not start out the best, but we'll figure it out as we go along and we'll make improvements. We'll make this thing better. And really, it's about those that listen, those that follow, those that have been listening to back Ever Vigilant and PDL for a long time. You know, it's about you. You know, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I spend the time. I put in the effort is to create something, to share knowledge, to get ideas out there, and to help bring purpose and meaning to uh, to men out there through the ethos of Prepare, Defend, Lead. So we'll get into that a little bit today. We'll get into a few things. So I'm going to jump into it again. This will go out live. It'll go on YouTube, and then after that, we will put an audio version of this out. Will drop on Mondays for the podcast. So, you guys got any suggestions, any ideas, anything that you think that I can improve on as we move along here? Would appreciate your feedback. So, a few years back, I had it's actually quite a while back. I had a serious injury at work. I was moving some full height mirrors, and as I was moving this mirror, it got wedged between the tile and the drywall ceiling, just slightly wedged in there. I was, of course, was moving really slow with this mirror, had leather gloves on as I was doing it. But as I tried to give it just a little bit of a twist, the glass broke out in a C shape right where my hand was, and my arm went into it, and I got a bad laceration on my forearm. And ended up going to the emergency room, of course, getting stitched up. They put it in a cast, was in a cast for a number of months as they prepared to do surgery. They had me in a cast because they didn't want me moving my arm and the tendons that had been severed to move around. So I was in a cast for a while, had surgery, was back in a cast again. And then when it was healed up enough, they broke open that cast, and I was left with an arm that had atrophied and an arm that was very, very, and it was my right arm, so it was even worse, that was almost couldn't do much with, other than play video games. I did play a lot of video games during that time. So because of that, I had to go to physical therapy. And the physical therapy was extremely difficult. There were days where the physical therapist would have your arm up on the table and she's massaging it or she's doing different things. And it took everything you had not to take a swing at her with your left hand. One of the most excruciating things that they would do is they would take your hand where your palm was flat, and they would put it up on the wall as high as they could. And then they would pull your arm down the wall because it would stretch out those tendons that had been cut in my arm. And it was excruciating. But what made it bearable was the destination. And that's what point I want to make today. The clearer that you can be on where you're trying to go, the clearer you can be on what your destination is, the more bearable the obstacles and challenges that come your way. So, for example, you don't want to go on vacation to Texas or to Arizona or to Montana, right? you want to go on vacation to a specific location within that state, whether it's Dallas, or you want to hit up Phoenix, or whether you want to go to Billings, you have a specific location within that state that you want to go and visit. And once you have that specific location within that state, then you can start to make a game plan for dates and hotels maybe along the way, or airplane, how you're going to fly there. But until you can dial in exactly what your destination is, it's going to make it nearly impossible to get where you want to go. Because the challenges are always going to come up in life, and we're going to even get into that more in kind of a different topic, but the challenges will always be there. The roadblocks, the obstacles will always come and get in your way. But the clearer that you can be on what you want, just like with my arm, it's my right arm. I needed to get full function back in my arm. I needed to be able to, as someone that was in construction full time at that time, I needed to be able to have full range of motion in my right hand. I needed to be able to write. I needed to be able to swing a hammer, whatever it might be, but I needed to get back to where I was before the injury. And that clarity of needing to get back to where I needed to go made it possible to get through the obstacles and the difficulty and the pain, because I knew clearly where I wanted to go, and I knew that there was a cost. I knew that it was going to be a challenge. I knew that it was difficult at times to be massaging an area that was not healed. But because of that, because I was clear on where I wanted to go, it made it bearable. I could deal with it. I could make it through because of that clarity. So right now, one thing that I'm working on, and part of the reason actually that I missed some PDL podcasts, is I'm putting a lot of effort into building a course for the open principles. Those of you that have been following me for a long time know that this is something that has made a major change in my life as far as helping me be clear on my destination and how I'm going to get there, helping me to clearly understand and have guideposts along the way to keep myself, to evaluate myself, to keep myself in check. So one of the things I'm working on creating now is a course on the 6 principles of the open. And the reason why I want to do that, have the book out there. You can go purchase the book either at Prepare.Defend.Lead.com or on Kindle or in paperback on Amazon. But the reason why I want to come up with this course is so that I can get involved, that I can teach, that I can add some of the stories of what's going on, so that people can ask questions, so that we can go through the action steps, and we'll do one principle each week. We'll do an intro and a review, but we'll do one principle each week. That will give everybody an opportunity to work together, to ask questions, to help all of us in our endeavors to become more open. So one thing that I want to talk about here too is last year we were going through some major turmoil in this country. And whether it really doesn't matter what your beliefs are on COVID and what your beliefs are on the response, either way, we were all affected in a major way because of decision policies that were made by others, whether those others were politicians or different organizations or different stores. We were all affected by the decisions that were made by others. Very early on last year, I had pointed this out, that we were going into some times of struggle. And because of it, we even have some great listeners of the podcast said that because of PDL, they were able to take action and set their family up before the store shelves were empty, and it put them in a much better position to cope with the situation. Also, last year I had a podcast where I talked extensively about the fact that there's been a major paradigm shift, and that I don't really believe that things are ever going to go back to normal the way that we understand and see and would quantify normal. Already people are calling it a new normal. I'm not really interested in new normal. I think while things weren't perfect, I like them a lot more than it seems the direction that they're heading. So what do I think coming forward here? I think that there has been a paradigm shift. My wife just showed me yesterday that at the Bruce Springsteen concert that only those that can prove that they were vaccinated will be allowed into his concert. And I see more of that coming. That can prove that they were vaccinated will be allowed into his concert. And I see more of that coming. I see more segregation and more putting aside of a demographic of our society that doesn't agree that they need to be vaccinated. The problem there isn't really if you've chosen to be vaccinated or you have chosen not to. The problem is that we are taking a segment of our society. If what's supposed to be, if you can't have this, if you don't do this, you can't work here. If you don't do this, you can't enjoy this entertainment. So I truly believe that there is a time of testing. There is a time of difficulties since the beginning of in times of testing in there, because that's what makes us who we are. That's what presses us and put our lives, that we have to be willing to take responsibility on family right now. Years has gone from guns are being purchased at a record rate. Why is that? Well, because of COVID, a lot of prisoners were let go. A lot of prisoners, even violent criminals in certain towns and certain areas, because of the threat of COVID and then not wanting outbreaks in the prisons, were set free. That's not good for society. Our borders are very porous, to say the least. That's an issue. It's a major issue when human trafficking is going on by cartels right under the nose of our security at the border, and it's being allowed to happen. As somebody who lives in Texas, it has a big effect on what's going on. Cuts in police budgets after this last year and the riots, another huge issue with our personal security. And then on top of it, not only do you have the budget cuts, but you have the pressure on police officers that's unbelievable, which is causing as many people to retire and many other officers just to quit together. This will force out the officer, the experienced officers, bring in inexperienced officers and those with a different type of attitude and a different type of agenda. And then we have inflation. The cost of things is skyrocketing. Right now, where I'm at in Austin, the housing prices are shooting up. It's right now, if you are to purchase a new home, they won't even give you a number for the home. They won't even give you a price to finance the house because they don't know what the price will be once the house is finished, because the lumber prices are fluctuating so much and continue to rise. And this affects everybody. As the prices go up, it will continue to affect all of us. So these are just a few things that I jotted down that are major changes that are taking place right now as I talk about the need to prepare for future troubles. So how do we do that? This is where the ethos of Prepare, Defend, Lead comes in. This is the idea that since the beginning of time, since the beginning of of men and women having children, living in small villages, and working together to struggle, there were three main ideas, three main things that the majority of time and energy and effort were spent on preparing, defending, and leading. And if we are going to work ourselves out of the situation that we are currently in this country, and if you are going to work yourself out of the situations that you are in, just in your personal life, whatever they might be. And for many out there in this country, the reality is the struggle that they're having right now, the difficulties that they're facing aren't physical, but they're the idea of not having a purpose, of being apathetic to what is actually going on in their lives and not taking any sort of control. Just going to work each day, doing what you need to do because that's what you've been doing, and letting the chips fall where they may. I believe that there's a different choice. I believe that there's a different idea. And I believe that if we go back to this ethos of preparing, defending, and leading, it will give you purpose. It will give you a reason to get up in the morning, and it will propel you and your family in a new, bold, different direction, especially with turmoil in a time of testing on the horizon. So I'm going to break into each of these to prepare, defend, and lead just a little bit. And those of you who've been listening to this podcast for a while know this stuff good, but I think we need to consistently refresh this idea. And this will be my next book, right? I struggled through writing Open and really not sure if I'll ever really write again. But if I do, it will be a book on prepare, defend, lead. What it means to prepare, what it means to defend, and what it means to lead, and why it is so important. And if we focus on these three things, how drastically different our lives can be. How drastically different our lives can be when we focus on three things that our ancestors focused on and put their energies and efforts into on a daily basis. So what do we mean by prepare? We mean that we're going to set ourselves up as much as possible, right? As much as we possibly can for future and for the difficulties that are ahead, right? So what does that mean? To prepare, to set ourselves up to thrive rather than just survive the future, what's possibly coming tomorrow. Well, just as you would prepare for a test, and I know people that still pull out the book before they go in just for their driver's test, that, you know, not the physical in the car driver's test, but the driver's test that you need to take every few years in order to maintain and keep your license, that they go through and they read the rules of the road book so that they can make sure that they can get that test done right. That's preparing. Of course, if you're in school or you're in college or you're somebody that needs to maintain some sort of license for your business, maybe a plumber or a stylist, you got to study. You got that test coming up and your profession relies on you maintaining a license. You study, you prepare. You want to make sure that you're up to date on any new rules, any new codes, anything that might prevent you from being able to go to work, to keep moving forward. So you study, you prepare. But for some reason in the physical realm, the realm of food and water, we let all that go. These are basic things that we have needed to survive since the beginning of time. Yet for some reason, let me turn up my volume. Mic here just a little bit. Maybe that'll help. For some reason, we think that those people that are doing that are kooks or crazy or in a bad spot. But I'll tell you what, this last winter when Texas was hit by that freak storm, just the fact that we had come from an area where we frequently had weather below zero in the winter and every year dealt with snow, we were prepared for that situation. We had generators, lots of blankets, ways to get water when the water was shut off because we had water. All these little things that completely put people in a difficult position didn't faze us. In fact, we were in a position to go next door to our neighbors and say, hey, is there anything we can do to help? Do you need anything? If you do need something, let us know. We would be more than happy to help you out. Now that puts you in a position of leadership. That puts you in a position of power in your neighborhood when you can be helping rather than needing to take something away, needing resources. So one of the best ways that we can prepare ourselves, because you can always go down that path of beans, Band-Aids, and bullets and stock up on thousands of rounds, and you can stock up on thousands of gallons, and you can have thousands of pounds of food. But if you don't know how to adapt, if you don't know how to learn, if you don't have relationships with the people that are in your neighborhood or in your region or your area, you're going to struggle. You are going to have difficulties whenever problems come your way. So when I talk about preparing, it's not just stocking up on physical items. It's the idea of learning. It's the idea of stretching yourself and growing in different areas. Maybe learning how to garden. You could go back to food again, but maybe learning how to garden, maybe getting a couple chickens. Those types of things can help you be more self-sufficient. But there's also different types of learning, right? If we're going to prepare, why not prepare financially? There are a lot of cool websites out there right now, like Upworks, where if you're skilled in a certain area, maybe coding or writing or editing, you can put your abilities up there for people to bid on. You can put your price up there, a fair price that you think your time is worth. And maybe you can spend some time working for some extra money on the side to set yourself up financially, maybe to purchase some of these other physical items, but at the same time to put yourself in a position where you can grow, you can challenge yourself, you can help other people, but you also are setting yourself up into a better place financially. So many of us struggled through what was going on at COVID because you lost your job. Look for options. There's a lot of really neat options out there now where you can use your abilities to help other people and make money along the way. So defend. What do I mean when I'm talking about defending? Well, first off, we just talked about some of the security issues that are going on, right? Seems like a lot, the crime rates, the murder rates have skyrocketed in some cities. I mean, ridiculous amounts. Criminals have been let go. Borders are open. Police are retiring, experienced police officers with years under their belt, those that are very, very vital and important in the real day-to-day training of what's going on in a department, they're retiring. Those that don't want to deal with the social pressures, those that don't want to deal with what's going on, maybe those that really disagree with the way things are being handled in their departments are quitting. The good guys, right? The officers that you really want to keep on that department. The ones that believe in people's rights, the ones that are there for the right reasons, to help, to serve their communities. They're quitting because they don't want to put up with the BS. I can think of a couple of them that are pretty famous on Instagram right now that was the reason they left. So we need to be in a position where we can defend our families. Does that mean from physical threats? That means from physical threats, of course. That's the easy go-to, right? That's what we all want to talk about. That's kind of the sexy part of it, right? But there's also a lot of things out there, whether it be on the internet or whether it be the wrong friends, the wrong influences in our children's lives, in our wives' lives, that we need to put ourselves in a position to defend them from. We need to put ourselves in this position and have the guts that we need, and we'll bump into this, also goes into lead, where we will say what needs to be said, where we will have those battles that we need to have, that we don't want to have because we just want to have peace around the house. But there are battles that sometimes that need to be had. And those battles that need to be had often have people going off one direction, doing whatever they want as we apathetically sit down on the couch, because it's always when you sit down on the couch with that fresh plate of nachos as you're watching Monday Night Football and your daughter walks down the stairs in some clothes that she shouldn't be wearing to go out. You just sat down, long day work, you're tired, you just want 5, 10, 15 minutes to yourself to eat your nachos, and you're going to fall asleep before the first quarter's over. But you need to defend her. She needs to also know that you're willing to step up, that you're willing to have that battle, that you want better for her. So we need to defend our children from what's on the internet. There's so much awful things that can have devastating consequences on the futures for our children because they see or get involved or get roped into relationships with the wrong people, the wrong influence. We need to defend our families from that. Maybe you need to defend your family from your local government school that they're involved in. Maybe that's where you need to defend your family from. And you need to make some sacrifices and figure out how you can pull them out of that public school and either put them into a private school or homeschool or get an online tutor or put in the energy and effort to do the online schooling with them. A lot of options. Lots and lots of options out there now that didn't exist 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Are you willing to make the sacrifices? Are you willing to put in the energy and effort that's going to take from you in order to defend your family and your children? And then we got leading. I got a post I'll be putting out later this week. It's something that I've said for years. Being in the trades, a lot of times, in fact, I'll tell you what, the majority of times on projects, and I worked with some of the best carpenters in the world. I really did. I mean, anybody can say that. I can prove it. But what consistently happened was when it was time to run a job, to be in charge, everybody took a step back. And I would often tell them, I said, by all of the good guys, all of the smart guys, all of the guys that care about one another here, step back and don't want to lead, all it does is open the door for the a-holes to jump in here and run these jobs. And then it affects all of us in a negative way. It makes it difficult for all of us because now we're working for somebody none of us want to work for. But it's our own fault because we didn't step up and take on that role, take on that responsibility. So when I'm talking about leadership, that's what I'm talking about. We can't complain about the way things are when we aren't willing to step up and into that role and take responsibility and to lead. Our world is desperate right now. Our country is desperate right now. Your state is desperate. Your community is desperate right now for leaders that care about somebody else other than just themselves in how they can move forward. So I got 3 areas written down here where it's so important that we lead. We really need to take back and lead in local politics. Now, I just moved down to Texas, just moved into this county, but I can guarantee you, as I move forward, I will be getting more and more involved in what's going on. One of the crazy, crazy things that I will be doing, I say it right here because I'm committed to these things. These are not just things that I talk about. These are not just great points to bring up in podcast interviews and on my own podcast and in books and stories and blogs and stuff like that. These are principles that I am living my life by. And because of that, here we moved into this new development. There is no HOA, never will be really an HOA. But everybody here wants to have some sort of governing body, some group of people that are looking out for their best interests. Now, in the past, I would have run away from the idea of becoming a part of that, of becoming part of the leadership of something like that. But I have come to realize that if I want things run the way that's best for me, that's best for my family, that's best for the people that I care about, then it's my responsibility to get involved. It's my responsibility, and I cannot put it on to anybody else to think that they are going to do anything to help me out. So I will be putting my name forward into the group to be somebody that helps. Actually, my job will be very easy there because my job will be to help make sure that there are no rules. There's very limited amount of scrutiny. It's very limited amount of energies and efforts put into dictate who does what or how they do it or what things look like when they're done. We need freedom. That's why I moved here. That's why many of the other people moved into this beautiful development. For freedom. There were no rules when we moved here. Only a couple that made sense to me that I was willing to agree to. But for the most part, there weren't rules. That was what drew us here. It's what drew a lot of people here. But there are always a few people that want to come in there, right? Want to start making rules. Want to start dictating how other people should live so it makes them feel good. I don't want that to happen. If I don't want that to happen, I need to get involved. One of the things here that really falls into all three categories is getting to know your neighbors, getting to know the people in your community. Just like I said with what happened in Texas at the end of last year, we had that bad winter storm and we were able to go to our neighbors and ask if they needed help. In return, one of our neighbors would bring us over baked goods that were some of the finest baked goods I've ever eaten, but not only were they delicious, but they were worthy of magazine cover. In fact, we pulled out this beautiful piece of loaf. It almost was like a pretzel bread all braided up and twisted. And when I pulled it out of the bag, still warm, my daughter looked at me and she says, "That looks like it should be on a magazine cover." I was like, "You're absolutely right." But that's building relationships. That's building rapport. That's building into your community. And if we have struggles coming ahead, which, again, we always do, maybe you need neighbors in an emergency to watch your dogs while you make an emergency run to a hospital. And you need to be able to make that phone call and say, "Hey, the key's under the front mat. Can you please just let the dogs out?" Maybe at the old homestead where we lived there in Illinois, we had a massive old maple tree fell down and just narrowly missed the house. We were all looking out the window at this magnificent lightning storm that was going on, and the wind was whipping up, and it was dark, pitch dark in the middle of the afternoon, and the lightning strikes and the thunder. And as we're looking out this window, this gigantic maple tree fell down right alongside the house, narrowly missing the house. I don't know how we had no damage. As the branches hit the window, we had no damage, but it knocked our power line down. going from the pole to the house. And the next day, there were neighbors driving down the road to see if anybody needed help. They saw, hey, look, this tree fell down. I was able to turn off the power going to that line, and they helped collect up the branches, came over with a chainsaw, hauled away all the big branches for us, and helped us out. Why? We gave them eggs. When they were around, we talked to them. We built relationships and built rapport, and we live in this crazy society now where we move in and out of neighborhoods so quickly. A lot of times we don't establish any sort of relationship whatsoever. Wrong. That's a mistake. If you want to be prepared for the troubles that are always coming, if you want to be able to defend your neighborhood, right? The zombie hordes are coming, and you need to get some people together to cut down a big maple tree to drop it over the road so that nobody can get down your cul-de-sac. You got to have some rapport. You got to have some relationships with those people in the neighborhood. They're going to say, yeah, let's grab the chainsaws. Let's chop down that tree. This is our cul-de-sac. Nobody's coming into this cul-de-sac. You know, some of you that live in rural areas like we do, we're solo at the moment right now. We are flying solo, and we're new to this area, and I can feel it. I can feel it. One of the main things on the agenda right now is to build relationships and build rapport with those around here. So huge. There's a little cowboy church down the road. Got to go there. Got to meet these people that live around here. And build some relationships, build some rapport. Let them know that, hey, I'm willing to contribute. I'm willing to help. I want to be here for all the right reasons. One of the coolest things down here, and I think the next podcast is going to be 10 things I love about Texas. We've been here not even 2 years. I want to share some thoughts on Texas and the experience here. But some of these people have been here, especially where we're at, for generations and generations. New people come in. It's easy, and it was much worse in Illinois than it is here for sure. It's easy to just stay on the sideline, to stay outside that circle, to stay an outsider. I want that for my future. Because it's possible that we need those people to help defend our value today. I go into pretty deep what's inside your home, not just from physical threats, but also from everything else. To build your home into a place of encouragement, a place of challenge, a place where people know that you believe in sacrifice. So I'm not going to completely flesh out that topic again. Either you can go back to the podcast, Open Your Heart, and that breaks things down pretty good. Or you can go check out the book at Prepare.Defend.Lead.com, or buy it on Kindle or in paperback on Amazon. So that's what I have in the notes here. I will be honest with you. This whole time I've been recording, it says my connection is unstable. So I'm not sure how this video is going to turn out. I'm not sure how this audio is going to turn out. But I do know this. PDL is going to continue to move forward. I have been doing podcasting now, and I look at me doing this video live on YouTube. And 5 years ago, or probably over 5 years ago when I started this never would have been something that would have been in my wheelhouse, never would have been something that I would have even considered. But yet here I am today doing this with a message, with notes, with ideas, with thoughts that I want to share with you to encourage you and to challenge you. And a big part of that, I'll go back to and say it again, and I don't want to be all salesy, but the open principles, those 6 principles, are a big part of me getting to where I am today. A big part of me getting to where I am today. but I am more clear and more committed to this mission than I have ever been. I have a clearer understanding of exactly what it is that I need to do and what needs to be done. And that goes back to the first topic of what we were talking about, right? Clarity in your destination. I know what needs to be done here. I know what my mission is. I know what I want to accomplish. And because of that, the challenges that come along the way, the trials, the obstacles that get in the way, they're just that now at this point. In the past, sometimes those things would knock me for a loop. They would put me out of commission for a little while. I get it now. I understand the game so much better. I just spent a bunch of money, had a great sale on Audible on a bunch of different books. I'm learning. I know what I need to learn. I know what I need to know to make this better. I know where I need to improve, and I am committed to improving in those areas. I know the message inside and out because I've been talking about it now for a very long time. But I'm more committed than ever to pushing this mission forward. And I want you to be a part of what's going on. So as things continue, as things evolve, as we change, as things improve, as things fail, come along for the ride. None of this is perfect. This ain't all figured out. This is not all theatrics in a game. These are all things that I'm living out. There's a reason why there's this empty void of property back behind me. I believe in these things that I was talking about and believed in them enough to make the sacrifices and put in the energy, effort, and finances into making something like this a reality. Is it without its costs? Is it without its difficulties? No. There are costs to anything and everything that you do. Everything that you choose to do means you didn't choose to do something else. And I have been blessed with a wife that is just as committed as I am to seeing things through, no matter how difficult they might be. Has it always been that way? No. When we got married, did I ever see any sort of agreement into living like this? No. But it happened. It happened. Part of the reason why it happened is because I believed in it. And I sold it. And I talked about it. And I explained it. And we talked about it again. And now I don't think she would be happy to live any other way. In fact, the reality is, and I probably mentioned this before in the podcast, when we came down to Texas, when we left the old homestead, I didn't know if we would ever own more than a suburban lot ever again. I felt that the right move for us as a Christian, felt that that's what God was telling us to do. The right move was to go down to Texas and give up everything that we had built, all the energies, all the efforts that we had put into that homestead, to just leave it go and come down to Texas. And truly in my heart, I did not know if we would be on a piece of property ever again that was bigger than a suburban lot. I thought that once we got back into the suburbs, there was a good chance that my wife would adapt back to her old ways. She grew up in the suburbs. That my kids would enjoy being closer to their friends and closer to different activities, places to go, water parks. But in the end, this is where we ended up. And we struggled and we fought and we sacrificed in order to get here. And still are. But why? Because we believe in these ideas. Prepare, defend, and lead. I was playing video games last weekend for Father's Day. A game that I probably haven't played in, I don't know, probably been close to a year. I have not been playing video games. I've been dedicated to what's going on here with this, and I'm constantly building. And a lot of times stuff that I'm building is creative. You guys never see it, never sees the light of day, never comes out anywhere. I spend a lot of time probably just spinning my wheels in one spot. but I'm trying. I'm pushing. I'm putting in the effort. And as my son saw this chaotic, dystopian version of Washington, D.C., as he was watching that, said to me, "This is not very realistic. This could never happen." So why do you think this is unrealistic? He said, "Well, look, the whole town is all wrecked. There's garbage everywhere. There's stray dogs, a lot of bad people roaming the streets. I don't think that could ever happen." And I just simply looked at him and said, "Why do you think we live where we live?" I don't know. Why do you think we live where we live? We're outside of that ring of a city. We're outside of that ring of a town. Are we safe? Are we 100% secure? Is there nothing that can go wrong? Do we not have other types of risks and things that we need to worry about? Of course we do. But we felt that this put us in the best position to be prepared. We have property. We can get goats again, chickens, ducks if we want. We have room for gardens, room for a pond. Yes, we gave up a lot, and I never thought we would have something like this again, but here we are. A lot of work, a lot of challenges, a lot of things coming forward. But these notes that I wrote down here are things that we're living, and that's why I want to share them. I think that you too can live out these things, and you can change your life, and you can have a life of purpose and a life of direction, and you can have a destination in your mind of where you want to go. And you can begin to blow through the obstacles. You can begin to push the doubts and the doubters and the friends that are trying to hold you back. You can push them to the side. And you can focus on that goal and know where you're going. And I know you can do that. And you know how I know? Because I'm no different than anybody else out there listening to this podcast. No different. And that's the message that I want to bring. I want to encourage you and at the same time challenge you to, in the book, open your mind, open your eyes, open your ears, open your mouth, open your heart, and open your arms. Those 6 principles changed the way that I looked at things. And through the ethos of Prepare.Defend.Lead, gave me even a clearer direction on where to go. So as I continue forward, I'm going to experiment with things like this YouTube, and we'll get this figured out. And then we'll move on to whatever's next. At some point, we're going to have live events. That's always been my goal since the beginning of Ever Vigilant, was to have live events. We're going to do that. I got some property now. We can do that. And that's on the horizon. What does it look like now? Don't know. Right now, I'm focused on my course and getting that course out. I'm focused on finding out how to do a video podcast. And this I want to throw out there too as an encouragement to those that are looking for new business ideas or new business ventures, or trying to come up with that idea of what's my thing? What can I do a podcast on? What can I write a book on? This is what I'm going to say. For years and years, I struggled to know what it was that I was committed to. For years and years, I didn't know what it was. And as the time has gone by and my mindset has changed, and I've read books and talked with mentors and learned from people moving forward and just continuing forward, even though I didn't know exactly what I was doing, even though I was struggling along the way, I continued moving forward. Now I have other business ideas. I just had an idea came to me this week of something that I really, really want to get into and want to play around with. I'm not even going to share it here because I don't really have the time to even dabble in it, but I will. And it's really cool. And I'm excited about it. I forgot in the Instagram live on my commute home. Those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, follow me on Instagram at Prepare.Defend.Lead. Follow me there. I post different pictures around the property, the overland project I'm working on, And we'll continue to show those shenanigans as we get things figured out and settled in more here. I also do 3 or 4 days a week I don't know if you heard that, but that was loud. 3 or 4 days a week, I do a live show on there as well. Just phone in the car while I'm driving, something I've been thinking about that day, something I learned, no notes, no editing, nothing, just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. But I just remembered one thing that I mentioned in there is I was going to do a review of a pair of pants that I absolutely love. So let me just bring that over here. Now that I'm doing stuff on video, it's way cooler than doing it on doing reviews of products on podcasts. Kind of flops. So these are the pants right here. Kind of funny. I've been purchasing products from LA Police Gear, which you can find at lapg.com for a long time, probably 6 or 7 years. And their branding, their products have continued to improve as the company has grown, which is cool to see. So on the plastic bag on the outside of this is open first before wearing. So they got a sense of humor over there. So these pants are awesome. These pants are by far my favorites. You can buy a pair of these LA Police Gear core cargo pants. I'll just call them cargo pants. I mean, some people think they're kind of tactical, but it's not really why I wear them. I wear them because they keep me cool, and they have extra pockets if I need them. But they come in a wide range of colors. You get anything from these, I think, are called Boulder, to OD green, blue, gray, black, a lot of different colors. I've never wore out a pair of these pants. I've never wore out a pair of these pants. I've never put a hole in a pair of these pants. In fact, the only reason I've ever purchased more was either I grew too big or too small for a pair, or they're stained up. The last couple pairs, I ruined a pair changing the brakes on the Mitsubishi Montero. Just was a filthy, messy brake job, and stained up and ruined that pair, or at least it's ruined for work, right? It's ruined for going out. It's perfectly fine for working around the house and on the homestead. And I got fluorescent green spray paint on another pair, so I couldn't use them for work when I have to go in for presentations or go do that sort of stuff at work. So I had to buy a couple new pair, but I have never wore out a pair of these LA Police Gear core pants. The best half price of the big major brands when it comes to these. Honestly, I don't do a lot of recommending of products unless I've put them through the paces and I really like what they have to offer. I've purchased other LA Police Gear brand products, and really everything that I've purchased from them that had their brand name on it, I've been happy with. But these pants are a game changer. They're light. They're cool in the summer. I've worn them in the winter. I've wore them every day in construction, and they just last and last and last. I wore them on the homestead at the old place for 4 years. Every time I was out working, rarely wore jeans, always wore these LA Police Gear pants, and they last. They last and they last and they last and they last. So if you are looking for a pair of pants, I would highly recommend these pants. And I will continue to purchase them when I need them, when I stain them, when I can't wear them anymore for the other obligations that I have. But they're great. They're great for going out with the family. They're great for date night with a nice button-down shirt. They're great with a polo, or great for working out on the homestead or doing work on your vehicle. Really, whatever you're doing, because like I said, for me, they've been bulletproof. So I'm going to end it there. Hopefully this experiment worked. Hopefully this recording went well, even though I see that we're trying to reconnect and my connection's unstable. I'll work on improving that. Coming to you from Texas Hill Country, out here on our property. And as always, hold fast. God bless.